This message is produced by truthfromgod.com, which is one of hundreds of messages that can be read, heard, and watched at truthfromgod.com. Understanding righteousness. The dictionary defines righteous as the quality or state of being righteous, righteous conduct, and the quality or state of being just or rightful. This is almost like defining an egg as an egg, and so it will be necessary to look further. Righteous is defined as acting in an upright, moral way, virtuous, and has a slang connotation of being absolute, genuine, or wonderful. Righteousness is a noun, and righteous is an adjective. Both have the same Old English root, rightwis, which is a compound word made up of right and wise. To be right-wise would mean that there must be wisdom about what is right. The rub is that the definition of right is so varied that it's like beauty and is in the eye of the beholder. Everyone has their own concept of right and usually equates it with fair. People are always saying, well, that is not right or fair. Ever hear the expression, life is not fair? So their concept of life is that it is not right. The other part of rightwise is wisdom. This is defined as the quality or state of being wise, knowledge of what is true or right, coupled with just judgment as to action, sagacity, discernment, or insight. Without wisdom, there will be no understanding of righteousness, and so where is wisdom found? Look around. It is apparent where wisdom does not exist. There's none coming out of the sacred cow of education. Is any demonstrated in government? Society's never been the bastion of wisdom, but only regurgitates its diet of acceptable norms, such as the belief in a flat world, evolution, and the Big Bang formation of the universe. Columbus and DNA research have shown this worldly wisdom to be nothing but children's nursery rhymes. Wisdom must determine what is right, for only then will there be right-wise, righteous, righteousness. A whole course of study has been dedicated to finding wisdom, and it is called philosophy. The English word comes from the transliteration of a compound Greek word made up of phileo, which means love, and Sophie, which means wisdom. Those who are always seeking wisdom were called the lovers of wisdom, philosophers. Throughout the millennia of time, man has attempted to bring forth wisdom, but to no avail. Why? Because man's mental processes are flawed, and so all his wisdom soon falls. Yesterday's wisdom of men is not today's wisdom of men, and what is accepted today will suffer the same fate in the world of all tomorrows. True, absolute, everlasting wisdom does not come from the mind of man. Can it be found? Yes. it will be necessary to move beyond that which is temporal to that which is eternal. The eternal mind does exist, and this mind communicates with only a select few. This selection is done by this same eternal being, which the world calls God, but knows nothing of his power, since this knowledge is also given by him to only those few he chooses. In times past, he caused certain men to write about him in a book which is called the Bible, and it contains the wisdom and knowledge that he wishes to share with his chosen few. None of his revelations will ever be understood by humanity and will remain a great mystery to them. They can never become educated enough to figure any of it out, for all understanding of him comes from him to those he chooses to give it, and when he chooses to give it. This statement is repugnant to man's flesh-driven ego. Man believes that on his own he can learn and understand anything, and this concept forever bars the gate behind which truth dwells. No matter how hard he tries, the walls of the divine treasure house will never be breached. Narrow is the gate and straight is the way which leads into the celestial city that only a few ever find. And they do not find it on their own, but are led there by the almighty hand that created all things and is in control of all things. This supreme and all-powerful God does have a name, and all Christendom is completely ignorant of it. The name is revealed in the Old Testament, which they reject by proclaiming that they are New Testament Christians who are the believers and followers of a new God whose name they do not even know. Wrapped up in strong delusion, they have given themselves the name Christian. According to them, their Christian group can be joined if anyone accepts, believes, and follows the way dictated by them. They call this the way to salvation. But it all hinges upon what a person chooses and does. Once man has performed the required acts, then their God is obligated to take them on a magic carpet ride to heaven when they die. Is not an obligation a debt? Do they not make God a debtor to man? Not only must their God take those acceptors, believers, and followers of their way to heaven, but also must send all those who do not bow down to a fiery eternal hell. Now, their God is a debtor to all humanity, and this debt is incurred with the physical birth of each new two-legged creature. This sounds exactly like the Jew bonding scam that's built on every birth certificate. This Jew money sham is only mentioned to show the parallel between Christianity and humanism, and as a matter of fact, the religion that 1/3 of the world follows is nothing but humanized Christianity. This religion has a God who is nothing more than their genie in a bottle who has an ever-increasing mountain of debt. Gee, That sounds like what is happening to every individual corporation and government. Well, is this not appropriate that a debt-ridden God have followers in his image and after his likeness? If this is the condition of the world, then truly he must be the God of this world. Here's the cold water of sobering truth. There is a way which seemeth right unto a man, but the end thereof are the ways of death. Proverbs 14:12. Now, here comes the clincher when the Apostle Paul says in 2 Corinthians 4:4, the God of this world hath blinded the minds of them which believe not, lest the light of the glorious gospel of Christ, who is the image of God, should shine unto them. The validity of wisdom is certainly defined by its source, and this fountainhead is not for man or any of his contrived religions and their many gods, but shines forth from the Bible. Just in case it is not apparent yet, Christianity is not based upon the Scriptures, but is built entirely upon the traditions of men. This is covered in many other messages, but start with Bible 101 and do all 13 step messages in that order. These are short and exist in video, audio, text, and PDF formats on my website, truthfromgod.com, which contains many other scriptural messages. Dare to drink from the water of life flowing from the very throne of Yahweh God? Okay, then here it is. The fear of the Lord Yahweh is the beginning of wisdom. A good understanding have all they that do his commandments. His praise endureth forever. Psalms 111:10. The fear of the Lord Yahweh is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction. Proverbs 1:7. The key that unlocks the gateway to wisdom and knowledge is the fear of the Lord Yahweh. Like everything else, Christianism will either twist fear into something completely opposite or quickly remind you that this Old Testament stuff no longer applies, for they are New Testament believers. Maybe they should pay attention to the Apostle Paul's indictment in Romans 3:18. There is no fear of God before their eyes. Having therefore these promises, dearly beloved, let us cleanse ourselves from all filthiness of the flesh and spirit, perfecting holiness in the fear of God. 2 Corinthians 7:1. 1 Peter 2:17 does not mince any words, but get straight to the point. Fear God. Revelation 11:18 mentions rewards for them that fear thy name. And this message is continued in Revelation 14:7, 15:4, and 19:5. Hail and cry aloud to the highest heaven, all Christendom, for it is a fearful thing to fall into the hands of the living God. Hebrews 10:31. Fear of the living God Yahweh is not taught by Christianism, For it has another gospel, which is fear the church with all its edicts, decrees, rites, rituals, doctrines, duties, and established hierarchies. Everyone must bow to its supreme authority. It stands there if it is God, all the while bringing the souls of men into its captivity. A few will even quote a snippet from a verse in 1 John 4:18 that perfect love casteth out fear. That's the person that just said this. Do you have perfect love? For anyone who thinks they do, then turn to 1 Corinthians and read the 13th chapter and ask, what say you now? The order of things is that only fear brings respect, and only respect brings love. If this is too complicated to fathom, then think about how one tries to obtain love. On the first date, there is the fear of not looking just right, of not saying the right thing, and of not doing the right thing. Who would dare to run the risk of being their own self and would even do something that's completely unlike them? Will what I do tonight cause him or her not to respect me in the morning? Why would this be a concern? It is because I want them to love me. When fear leaves, respect dies, and love no longer exists. The fear of losing something only exists for what is valued, looked at with respectful appreciation, and thereby is loved. This is how perfect love is built and maintained. Love does not live in any relationship if the other two, fear and respect, do not exist in their divine order. When people begin to belittle each other, then there is no fear, respect, or love. The relationship is doomed. Without the first and second elements in their proper place, no marriage is really a marriage, but is a nightmarish living hell. This is why there is a plan for divorce set out in the scriptures. Jesus addresses the matter of marriage and divorce in Matthew 19:3-9. And it is in verse 8 that the true reason is set forth, that is, because of the hardness of your hearts. The hard heart has no fear, which precludes all respect, which gendereth love. Thus the love of God will never exist without its root, the fear of God. Without it, there is no perfect person, and certainly not perfect love. The undeniable fact is that people are consumed with all kinds of fears which pertain to this fleshly existence. They are afraid of dying, getting sick, losing their job, not being able to pay the mortgage, being disliked, and a legion of others. But there is no fear of Yahweh God, which brings all these other fears upon them. Christianism realizes that keeping people in fear of the church with its doctrinal decrees is necessary to keep its religion reigning supreme over the souls of mankind, and it cannot afford to have it replaced by the fear of Yahweh God. Man's supreme fear is what directs his whole life. All you churchgoers, listen to what the Bible says. Oh, fear the Lord Yahweh, ye his saints, for there is no want of them that fear him. Psalms 34:9. Ye that fear the Lord Yahweh, praise him. All ye the seed of Jacob, glorify him, and fear him, all the seed of Israel. Psalms 22:23. Serve the Lord Yahweh with fear, and rejoice with trembling. Psalms 2:11. What man is he that feared the Lord Yahweh? Him shall he teach in the way that he shall choose. The secret of the Lord Yahweh is with them that fear him, and he will show them his covenant. Psalms 25:12 and 14. For as the heaven is high above the earth, so great is his mercy toward them that fear him. Like as a father pitieth his children, so the Lord Yahweh pitieth them that fear him. But the mercy of the Lord Yahweh is from everlasting to everlasting upon them that fear him, and his righteousness unto children's children, to such as keep his covenant, and to those that remember his commandments to do them. Psalms 103, 11, 13, and 17 through 18. Praise ye the Lord Yahweh. Blessed is the man that feareth the Lord Yahweh, that delighteth greatly in his commandments. Psalms 112:1. Blessed is everyone that feareth the Lord Yahweh, that walketh in his ways. Thus shalt the man be blessed that feareth the Lord Yahweh. Psalms 128, 1 and 4. Those who praise Yahweh, keep his covenant, remember and do his commandments, delighteth greatly in them, walk in his ways, rejoice with trembling, and fear him, are those he pities. They will want not, and they will receive his mercy, which endureth forever. These are but a few verses from Psalms that put things in a proper perspective. The first step, the beginning of wisdom, is the fear of Yahweh God. This is the knowledge that he is all-powerful, that he is supreme, that he created all things, that no other power exists that is not exactly as Yahweh created it, that he is in absolute control of all things, that everything is done as he expressly dictates, and that he can destroy, terminate anything at any time according to his will. No force in heaven has any say in the matter, and certainly not his creation on earth, humanity included. Whose will can override Yahweh God's? Is it man's free will? Does man's belief, acceptance, or confession turn God into his debtor? You know, Christianism's doctrine that if you come to Jesus, then God will save you. Man has no choice in the matter. Did that statement go against what you believe? If so, Then pay attention to what Jesus says in John 6:44 and 65. No man can come to me except the Father which has sent me draw him, and I will raise him up at the last day. And he said, therefore I say unto you, that no man can come unto me except it were given unto him of my Father. Let's see. No man can come to Jesus except it was given unto him by Yahweh. And it is God that draws him to Yahweh the Anointed. Jesus goes on to tell the disciples that they did not choose him. Have not I chosen you 12? And one of you is a devil. John 6:70. Even though churchianity teaches that all people are children of the devil and must choose Jesus, and then God's obliged to make them one of his children, this is not what was said in this verse, but the very opposite. None of this is surprising, since Christianity is a religion based entirely upon the doctrines of the devil, and it is the beast of Revelation 13:11. The few verses churchism uses in trying to establish its validity are so perverted that they bear no resemblance to the scriptures from which they are wrenched. This religious beast is built upon lying traditions of men contrived to enslave the souls of men. There is no "thus saith Yahweh" in it, but only a continual avalanche of churchy rhetoric with its man's free will, man's choosing, man's accepting, man's believing, and man's following the church cock's edicts. The same snake oil elixir of life is sold in many colors, fragrances, and packages. There are over 30,000 denominations under the Christian banner today. There is no righteousness in such a man-made, corrupt creation as the Christian religion, which was set up by Constantine I in 313 AD and established according to the government of Rome. This new creation has served the state well for the last 1,700 years. There is no fear of Yahweh taught in it, but only the fear of non-conforming to its ecumenical edicts. Its dogma of man being in control of his own destiny has put him above their God's plan, power, and sovereignty. Their theology trots out a God that allows and permits anything and everything. The thing created now becomes higher than the Creator simply by what it does. Humanity's freedom to make choices is their most holy of holies, into which their God will never violate or infringe. Man's decisions must reign supreme, and God's will, plan, and purpose must take a backseat to it. Would not this concept make man and his free will superior to Yahweh's God's predestinated plan? The Bible never says that man has freedom of will, but does emphatically declare the sovereignty of God's predestinated plan. Predestination throws you for a loop. Then read Ephesians 1:5, 11, and Romans 8:29 through 30. What free will did Pharaoh have? None. If this is not understood, then read Exodus 4:21 and Romans 9:17. Also think about Jonah that chose not to go to Nineveh. He never repented and said that he would go, but Yahweh took him there anyway. As a matter of fact, it was God's plan that Jonah chose not to go and ran the other way so that he could deliver him to Nineveh from inside a great fish, because the Ninevites worshiped the fish god Dagon. And so Jonah was seen as the prophet of their God. Even though man's free will is only an illusion of the flesh-driven mind, it is a foundation upon which all Christendom stands. In the light of the Scriptures, it will evaporate, and all Christianity will come tumbling down. The reign of the fear of the church, the evil empire, will be destroyed, and the smoke of its burning will cause men to weep, moan, and wail. What would they cling to without their escapist, pie-in-the-sky, heaven-bound religion? From the beginning of the Adam in earth, the old serpent has tried to spread another wisdom, and he, being the God of this world, has been very successful in carrying out his job of blinding the minds of men to the truth. 2 Corinthians 4:4. If this is not understood, then go back to Genesis 3:1 through 6, where the serpent seduced the woman. He convinced her that by eating of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, that her eyes shall be opened, and she shall be as gods, knowing good and evil. Believing this evil doctrine, she saw it as a tree to be desired to make one wise, and not the deadly thing it was. Where did this pursuit of man, by his own efforts of becoming godly and obtain wisdom, lead? Did it not bring death? It is the old serpent that is the great dragon of Revelation 12:9, which is also called the devil and Satan. This is not some childish story about a snake hanging out of a tree talking to Eve, trying to get her to eat an apple, but is about Satan, who transforms himself into an angel of light, is pointed out in 2 Corinthians 11:14. It is the God of this world that wants to see all men wallowing around in the hog pen of death. As Hebrews 2:14 through 15 says, "For as much then as the children Elohim are partakers of flesh and blood, he, Yahweh, also himself likewise took part of the same, that through death he might destroy him that hath the power of death, that is, the devil, and deliver them who through fear of death were all their lifetime subject to bondage. The chains of bondage the serpent, Satan, was forging in the Garden of Eden to enslave the Elohim children of Yahweh had the appearance of golden bracelets which were to be desired to make one wise. So there are two wisdoms at work. One comes from man wanting to be as God, and the other comes from the fear of Yahweh God. The God of this world, as the angel of light, is also a roaring lion that walketh about seeking whom he may devour. 1 Peter 5:8. This snake oil salesman, as the God of this world, continually roars out the same message based upon the fear of death, which stampedes the sheep into the slaughter pen of Christianism that promotes another gospel and not the one of the Bible. Their wisdom is nothing but strong delusion used to keep men in the bondage of the fear of death. This is the wisdom of the world and not of Yahweh God. What people fear is what drives them. Look at what is going on in the world. There is no fear of God, but only the fear of some organization of this world, whether it is society, religion, or government. And it is this world order that demands allegiance to its wisdom and God. There is no skirting the issue. The beginning of wisdom is the fear of Yahweh God. The woman's capitulation to the serpent's statements demonstrated that she had no fear of God, but instead the desire to be wise and like God, which brought about disobedience to God. It was only after eating the fruit of this tree of knowledge of good and evil came the realization of nakedness and the feeble attempt of trying to cover up what had been done. God did not let this slide by, but his voice came into the garden, and great fear came upon the Adam and the woman, who knew full well what they had done. Try as they might, they could no longer hide out and escape their meeting with Yahweh God. God asked a question, and then began the blame game. His judgment was rendered, and so began the long journey into wisdom. Things are still the same when the word of Yahweh God comes walking into our lives. No matter how hard we try to hide, no matter what we do to cover up, no matter whom we blame, Yahweh's judgment comes forth, and we begin that same journey into wisdom. He leads us into a world of hard lessons which give us knowledge. That fearful encounter with the living God never leaves us the same way we were. Things are put into their proper order. Yahweh strips away our created fig leaf covering and puts coats of skin upon us, which will endure the rigors of this earthly existence. all the creations of men to clothe themselves will never survive such a perilous, painful pilgrimage. Here is the right wise: all our righteousnesses are as filthy rags. Isaiah 64:6. Sometimes it is easier to understand what a thing is by looking at what it is not. The Apostle Paul lists many things that are not righteous in Romans 1:18 through 32. For the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men who hold the truth in unrighteousness, because that which may be known of God is manifest in them, for God hath showed it unto them. For the invisible things of him from the creation of the world are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made, even his eternal power and Godhead, so that they are without excuse, because that when they knew God, they glorified him not as God, neither were thankful, but became vain in their imaginations. Their foolish heart was darkened. Professing themselves to be wise, they became fools, changed the glory of the incorruptible God into an image made like to corruptible man, and to birds and four-footed beasts and creeping things. Wherefore God also gave them up to uncleanness through the lust of their own hearts, to dishonor their own bodies between themselves, who changed the truth of God into a lie, and worshipped and served the creature more than the Creator, who is blessed forever. Amen. For this cause God gave them up unto vile affections, for even their women did change the natural use into that which is against nature, and likewise also the men, leaving the natural use of women, burned in their lust one toward another, men with men, working that which is unseemly, and receiving in themselves that recompense of their error which was meet. And even as they did not like to retain God in their knowledge, God gave them over to a reprobate mind, to do those things which are not convenient, being filled with all unrighteousness, fornication, wickedness, covetousness, maliciousness, full of envy, murder, debate, deceit, malignity, whisperers, backbiters, haters of God, despiteful, proud, boasters, inventors of evil things, disobedient to parents, without understanding, covenant breakers, without natural affection, implacable, unmerciful, who, knowing the judgment of God, that they which commit such things are worthy of death, not only do the same, but have pleasure in them that do them. Just take the last 4 verses and look at the list. The unrighteous are without understanding, without natural affection, covenant breakers, will not keep their word, implacable, cannot be appeased, envious, covetous, malicious, deceitful, whisperers, backbiters, disobedient to parents, full of debate, malignity, intense ill will, unmerciful, proud, boasters, despiteful, fornicators, inventors of evil things, full of wickedness, murderers, and outright haters of God. Just one item in this list denotes unrighteousness. Do you know anyone who's a gossip? How about someone that is despiteful or proud? Is there someone who is hateful and always stirring up conflict? What about homosexuals? Or people that will not keep their promises? Do any of these attend your church? Where is there any character or integrity in this list? Where is there any fear of God? Where is there any semblance of righteousness to be found? Is it taught in schools, or is the acceptance of gays? Is it preached in the churches, or is the doing away with the law of Yahweh God? Is it found in government, or are the most abominable laws passed and enforced? Are not all these institutions a cesspool of unrighteousness? Has not the serpent seed Jew grabbed control over every element in our nation? If anyone thinks that the Jews are God's chosen people, or the Israel of the Bible, then they are not only ignorant of the scriptures, but also blind to the fruit that this evil vine has produced throughout all ages. In case there is some divine spirit smoldering under a mountain of flesh, Jesus' words will fan it into a flame and cause it to burn. He told the Jews that they are the children of the devil in John 8:44. And if one wants it in context, then read John 8:31 through 59. Jesus further indicts this evil serpent generation race of liars, hypocrites, and murderers in Matthew 23:13 through 36. No, they will not escape the damnation of hell, for they are descendants of them which killed the prophets. As Yahweh says, this is a racial thing, and when they cried, His blood be on us and on our children, only proved his point. Yet the lying, blasphemous church not only teaches that the Jews are God's chosen people, Israel, but also that Jesus was a Jew devil. The Bible clearly states the very opposite of Christianism. So, from where does their doctrinal theology spring which glorifies the Jews? From the evil serpent's seduction of the woman came forth his iniquitous seed into the earth with the birth of Cain, that grew up to perform his father's murderous nature by killing the seed of the woman, Abel. Take time and read Genesis 3:15, which is about 2 seed lines than what Yahweh said to the woman in Genesis 3:16. I will greatly multiply thy sorrow and thy conception. She did have multiple conceptions. One was from the serpent and the other from Adam. There is not one verse of Scripture in the Bible that says or even insinuates that Adam was the father of Cain. So Eve got a man from the Lord Yahweh, but it was not the first one born, but the second one, and his name was Abel. This is just like the birth of Esau and Jacob, in that Esau was born first, and the second one born was Jacob. But it was Jacob that was the chosen one from Yahweh. Esau represented the flesh and Jacob the spirit, and so Yahweh changed Jacob's name to Israel, Genesis 32:28. Before these two were ever born, or having done anything, Yahweh said, Jacob have I loved, but Esau have I hated. Romans 9:11 through 13. If there is still any confusion about who the seed of the woman is, then read Eve's declaration in Genesis 4:25. Now, who does the Bible say that Cain's father was? This is found in the New Testament book of 1 John 3:12, where it says that Cain was of that wicked one, the old serpent called the devil and Satan, Revelation 12:9. It is in this same verse in 1 John 3:12, where it also states that Abel's works were righteous. What were his works? They were in accordance with the commandment of Yahweh God pertaining to sacrificing. The firstling of his flock and of the fat thereof. And the Lord Yahweh had respect unto Abel and to his offering. Genesis 4:4. The only shedding of blood that Cain would perform would be the murder of his half-brother Abel. The descendants of Cain are still murdering the seed of the woman. And as Jesus says, they are guilty of all the righteous blood shed upon the earth. Matthew 23:35. The capstone of this bloody pyramid was laid with the crucifixion of Jesus, Yahweh, the anointed of Yahweh God. It is no different today, for this bloody race of devils have driven all mention of Jesus out of the schools and made his precious name verboten in all public forums. They're the ones protesting the nativity display at Christmas and are demanding the eviction of Yahweh God's commandments from every courthouse. No nation will be free from their deadly grip until Yahweh God destroys them out of the land, and this will not happen until Ezekiel 37:11 comes to pass. The first place that the English word righteous appears in the Bible is Genesis 7:1. And the Lord Yahweh said unto Noah, Come thou and all thy house into the ark, for thee have I seen righteous before me in this generation, Dora, age. The Hebrew word tisdek is not only translated righteous in the King James Version, but also is rendered just, righteous man, and lawful. Simply put, Noah and his ancestors had obeyed Yahweh. But Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord Yahweh. These are the generations, Toledah, racial ancestry of Noah. Noah was a justice man and perfect, tall man, without blemish, in his generations, Dora ages, and Noah walked with God, Genesis 6:8-9. His ancestry had been kept racially pure according to Yahweh's commandments, and was without blemish throughout the ages, which was unique in comparison with all the others round about him who were whatnot mongrels. Because of this clinging on to Yahweh's truth, Noah was a just, righteous man. This is no different than Genesis 15:6, which is the first time the word righteousness appears in the Bible, and this pertains to Abram, whose name God would change to Abraham. Yahweh told Abram that his seed would be as numerous as the stars of heaven. And he believed in the Lord Yahweh, and he counted it to him for righteousness. After the great horror fell upon Abram, these words of God were forever etched into his total consciousness, and he would hold fast to them come what may. Did Abram fear God Yahweh? Yes. How is this known? Read the first verse in this chapter where Yahweh said, "Fear not, Abram." Genesis 15:1. Righteousness is eternally linked with the fear of Yahweh. Yet Christianity is constantly trying to mitigate and explain away all such Bible concepts with their good news salvation message. Their entire modern gospel is anti-scriptural, nothing but the lying doctrine of devils. Can anything be more brazen? As someone saying, God saved. I believe in Jesus, or I accept Christ. Is not this an outrageous affront and insult to the very words of Jesus, Yahweh the Anointed? Read what he said and tell me. No man can come to me except the Father which has sent me draw him. And no man can come unto me except it were given unto him of my Father. John 6:44-65. Who but the most blind and ignorant about the election of Yahweh would spew out such drivel? Where is the fountainhead of this poisonous stream except Christianity? These defenders of the faith will say, when I got saved, God called me to preach. Pray tell, what is it that they proceeded to preach but the lies of their carefully taught religionism? Every one of this ilk will begin by proclaiming that the Jews are God's chosen people, Israel, and that everyone else is a child of the devil who must get saved like they did, or else will burn in hell forever. None of this is the message of Yahweh God, Yahweh Jesus, the anointed Christ Messiah, or the Bible. The God that called them to preach such heresy is the God of this world, the God of Christianism, and not Yahweh. Is there any good in such a corrupt message? Doth a fountain send forth at the same place sweet water and bitter? Can the fig tree, my brethren, bear olive berries? Either a vine figs? So can no fountain both yield salt water and fresh. James 3:11 through 12. These perverters of Yahweh God's truth even refer to the church as something that a person can and must join. No man can join the church of Yahweh as stated in the Bible. And the Lord added to the church daily such as should be saved. Acts 2:47. If Yahweh ever flips their switch, then they will see the perverted gospel that they have preached, will proclaim its hellishness, begin to praise their Father for his enduring mercy that delivered them from the gross darkness of such strong delusion. The fear of Yahweh and of no other will be the foundation upon which he builds their knowledge, understanding, and wisdom. This flows from the Father and is not based upon any man's belief, acceptance, profession, or deeds. Every good gift and every perfect gift is from above, and cometh down from the Father of lights, with whom is no variableness, neither shadow of turning. James 1:17. And folks, you do not get anything from Yahweh because of your works. Now to him that worketh is the reward not reckoned of grace, but of debt. Romans 4:4. God is never your debtor, but according to Christianity, if you do something, then God will do something. Follow their logic to its conclusion. If I say, mow my yard and I'll give you $10, then if you mow my yard, I owe you something. Your act made me your debtor. And you can walk right up and demand, pay me, fork it over. If this logic is not seen to be completely contrary to the scriptures, then there is no fear of Yahweh present, and only the childishness of a spoiled kid that thinks his daddy only exists to provide for his every whim. The very teaching of the church turns children into the masters and the parents into their slaves. Is it no wonder that there is such lawlessness in today's youth? Their mindset is that Everyone owes them something. The fear of the Father does not exist, and in that destruction, the church has done a good job. While claiming to be doing one thing, they are in actuality doing the very opposite. Looking like a lamb, they spew forth the edicts of the dragon. Revelation 13:11. And Jesus said, every tree is known by his own fruit. Luke 6:44. After a little fruit inspecting, all Christianism will be hewn down and cast into the fire. For it is rotten to the core, and it does nothing but work iniquity, stated by Jesus in Matthew 7:15 through 23. The Christian religion has usurped the name Christ, just like the Jews have usurped the name Israel, and neither legitimately applies to either. Both of these devilish creatures have enslaved and ride roughshod over all mankind. It is fear of them that is being instilled into the souls of men. All are taught obedience to this beast through society, education, industry, and government. Conform to their edicts, or away with you to the slander machine, ostracization, expulsion, excommunication. Jesus told of this in Matthew 5:10 through 11. Blessed are they which are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are ye when men shall revile you and persecute you, and shall say all manner of evil against you falsely for my sake. This will also occur within one's own family, as he points out in Matthew 10:36. And a man's foes shall be they of his own household. The Apostle Paul instructs Timothy about this in 2 Timothy 3:12. Yea, and all that will live godly in Christ Jesus shall suffer persecution. Anyone who believes that Christianity follows Christ does not understand what Christ it follows, for there are many Christ, as Jesus points out in Matthew 24:24. For there shall arise false Christ and false prophets, and shall show great signs and wonders, insomuch that if it were possible, they shall deceive the very elect. This dire warning is also given in Mark 13:22. The Apostle John calls these false Christs what they really are. Little children, it is the last time, and as ye have heard that Antichrist shall come, even now are there many Antichrists, whereby we know that it is the last time. 1 John 2:18. In these last times, there are over 30,000 different denominations following their own unique Christ, and none are the Christ of the Bible. There's no unity of faith in these whited synagogues of Satan's sepulchres, which indeed outwardly appear beautiful and righteous unto men, but are full of dead men's bones, of all uncleanliness, of hypocrisy and iniquity. Matthew 23:27 through 28. According to the Bible, there are not only many false Christ, antichrist, but also many false spirits. That is why John says, "Beloved, believe not every spirit, but try the spirits whether they are of God, because many false prophets are gone out into the world." 1 John 4:1. No one in anything Christian will be able to try the spirits because they have no discernment. For if they did, they would not be involved in anything as antichrist, ungodly, flesh-driven as Christianism. People with discernment would be meat eaters and not milk drinkers. Is not this said in Hebrews 5:12 through 14? For when for the time you ought to be teachers, ye have need that one teach you again, which be the first principles of the oracles of God, and are become such as have need of milk, not of strong meat. For everyone that useth milk is unskillful in the word of righteousness, for he is a babe. But strong meat belongeth to them who by reason of use have their senses exercised to discern both good and evil. Now, if you want to see where you are, then just continue with the next 3 verses. Therefore, leaving the principles of the doctrine of Christ, let us go on unto perfection, not laying again the foundation of repentance from dead works, and of faith toward God, of the doctrine of baptisms, and of laying on of hands, and of resurrection of the dead, and eternal judgment. And this we will do, if God permit. Hebrews 6:1 through 3. Are you already gagging? Are you willing to leave the principles of the doctrine of Christ? Are you hung up in repentance from dead works and of faith toward God? Are you consumed with doctrines such as baptisms and of laying on of hands? Are you contending about resurrection and eternal punishment? What would you think about someone who said, "Leave all this behind and go on unto perfection"? According to the previous verses, milk drinkers cannot leave these doctrines, and are not the meat eaters that move on to perfection. All this may seem contrary to everything you have been taught in church, but it is the word of Yahweh, the first principles of the oracles of God, which Christianism buries under its mountain of lies, deceits, perversions, heresies, and superstitions. These evil things that fill up Christianity are from Yahweh God, so that his children Elohim would see it for what it is as they mature into adult sons. For there must be also heresies among you, that they which are approved may be made manifest among you. 1 Corinthians 11:19. It is all about showing what is what. Will milk drinking babies see any of this? No. But an infant's diet does change as they grow, and eventually they develop teeth and learn to bite and chew. One day they will enjoy a steak dinner, but a lot of food is consumed first that may not be pleasing to the palate. However, there must be a complete meal of likes and dislikes if proper growth is achieved. So, we know that all things work together for good to them that love God, to them who are the called according to his purpose. Romans 8:28. For I reckon that the sufferings of this present time are not worthy to be compared with the glory which shall be revealed in us. Romans 8:18. For whom he did foreknow, he also did predestinate to be conformed to the image of his Son, that he might be the firstborn among many brethren. Moreover, whom he did predestinate, them he also called. And whom he called, them he also justified. And whom he justified, them he also glorified. Romans 8:29 through 30. None of this has anything to do with the works of man. There's no repenting, believing, accepting, confessing, following, adopting, or any other things promoted by Christianism found in these verses. Just read ahead a little further, and it is very clear that man has no say in the matter. Romans 9:11 says that the purpose of God according to election might stand, not of works, but of him that calleth. And if that does not do it, then continue to verse 16. So then, it is not of him that willeth, nor of him that runneth, but of God that showeth mercy. Again, flesh-based Christianity will have nothing to do with such a concept, and it will strongly repudiate the truth that Yahweh God does it all according to his predestinated plan, and man gets no say or free choice in the matter. Therefore hath he mercy on whom he will have mercy, and whom he will he hardeneth. Romans 9:18. Hath not the potter power over the clay of the same lump to make one vessel unto honor and another unto dishonor? Romans 9:21. What shall we then say to these things? If God be for us, who can be against us? He that spared not his own Son, but delivered him up for us all, how shall he not with him also freely give us all things? who shall lay anything to the charge of God's elect? It is God that justifieth. Romans 8:31 through 33. There will never be any righteousness in Christianity, for they reject the very word of God, which gives the instructions about righteousness. This is clearly stated in 2 Timothy 3:16. All Scripture is given by inspiration of God, and is profitable for doctrine, for reproof, for correction, for instruction in righteousness. Has the light come on yet about where righteousness is found? Jesus, Yahweh, commands, but seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. Matthew 6:33. The righteousness of God is to be sought, and he will reveal it through his word. This is why Paul tells Timothy, study to show thyself approved unto God, a workman that needeth not to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. 2 Timothy 2:15. If you want to be blessed of Yahweh, then listen to Jesus. Blessed are they which do hunger and thirst after righteousness, for they shall be filled. Matthew 5:6. Men will hate you for seeking, hungering, and thirsting after righteousness, but this also brings a God-given blessing upon you. Blessed are they which are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Matthew 5:10. Sow to yourself in righteousness, reap in mercy, break up your fallow ground, for it is time to seek the Lord Yahweh till he come and rain righteousness upon you. Hosea 10:12. Like everything else, our righteousness comes from God. It is his gift to us. He opens our eyes and gives us understanding. God says in Isaiah 54:17, their righteousness is of me, saith the Lord Yahweh. Lead me, O Lord Yahweh, in thy righteousness. Psalms 5:8. From the revelation of his word, we learn that his commandments are righteousness. Psalms 119, 172. This message is only for Yahweh's children, Elohim, because only they have the spirit of their Father. These things from him are spirit, and are spiritually discerned by that sameness of spirit. Only the receiver that is set at the same frequency as the transmitter will get the broadcast. So there is nothing here for the world. The Elohim, who have come through the racial doorway of the Adam of Genesis 2:7, that are dwelling in white Adamic bodies, bring that spirit of their Father with them into the earth. The Spirit itself beareth witness with our spirit that we are the children of God. And if children, then heirs, heirs of God and joint heirs with Christ, if so be that we suffer with him, that we may be also glorified together. Romans 8:16 through 17. Now we have received not the spirit of the world, but the Spirit which is of God, that we might know the things that are freely given to us of God. 1 Corinthians 2:12. It is only through the gateway of the Spirit between the Father in heaven and his children Elohim in earth that he gives us the spirit of wisdom and revelation in the knowledge of him. Ephesians 1:17. As we were with him in heaven before the foundation of the world, he is with us in the earth, putting on a flesh and blood body, created a lot of interference in this communication, and Jesus, Yahweh, cleared the static off the airways between us and our Father. Yahweh knew that there would be interference on the line, and this was taken care of before we ever entered 3D. This is why Jesus is the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world. Revelation 13:8. For there is one God, Yahweh, and one mediator between God and men, Elohim, the man Christ Jesus, the anointed Yahweh Shua. 1 Timothy 2:5. For verily he took not on him the nature of angels, but he took on him the seed, race of Abraham. Wherefore in all things it behooved him, Yahweh, to be made like unto his brethren, Elohim, that he might be a merciful and faithful high priest in things pertaining to God, to make reconciliation for the sins of the people. Hebrews 2:16 through 17. For it became him, Yahweh, for whom are all things, and by whom are all things, in bringing many sons unto glory, to make the captain of their salvation perfect through sufferings. For both he, Yahweh, that sanctifieth, and they who are sanctified, Elohim, are all of one family. For which cause he is not ashamed to call them brethren, Elohim. Hebrews 2:10 through 11. Now go to Jesus' prayer in John 17:1 through 26. Neither pray I for these alone, but for them also which shall believe on me through their word, that they all may be one, as thou, Father, art in me, and I in thee, that they also may be one in us, that the world may believe that thou hast sent me. The glory which thou gavest me, I have given them, that they may be one, even as we are one, I in them and thou in me, that they may be made perfect in one, that the world may know that thou hast sent me, and hast loved them as thou hast loved me. 20 through 23. I pray for them. I pray not for the world, but for them which thou hast given me, for they are thine. 9. The world hath hated them, because they are not of the world, even as I am not of the world. I pray not that thou shouldest take them out of the world, but that thou shouldest keep them from the evil. They are not of the world, even as I am not of the world. 14 through 16. And I have declared unto them thy name, Yahweh, and will declare, that the love wherewith thou hast loved me may be in them, and I in them. 26. Numerous times Jesus speaks about being killed and tells the disciples that they will not be left alone. This was the message in John 14, 1 through 31. But pay attention to a couple of verses. I go unto my Father, 12, and I will pray the Father, and he shall give you another comforter, that he may abide with you forever, even the Spirit of truth, whom the world cannot receive, because it seeth him not, neither knoweth him. But ye know him, for he dwelleth with you, and shall be in you. I will not leave you comfortless. I will come to you. 16 through 18. At that day ye shall know that I am in my Father, and ye in me, and I in you. 20. This indwelling of Jesus in us is a great mystery, stated in Colossians 1:27. Christ in you, the hope of glory. There is always an abiding presence of Yahweh Shua with his brethren Elohim, which is in them, their spirit, for we all, as the children of Yahweh, are eternally linked. This is the oneness of the Father and children, and this divine seed transcends this world, past, present, and future. This link to our origin will not only teach us all things, but will bring all things that Yahweh and Yahweh Shua told us back into our remembrance. This is the new covenant spoken of in Jeremiah 31:31 through 36. Behold, the days come, saith the Lord Yahweh, that I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah, not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day that I took them by the hand to bring them out of the land of Egypt, which my covenant they break, although I was an husbandman unto them, saith the Lord Yahweh. But this shall be the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days, saith the Lord Yahweh. I will put my law in their inward hearts, and write it in their hearts, and will be their God, and they shall be my people. They shall teach no more every man his neighbor, and every man his brother, saying, Know the Lord Yahweh. For they shall all know me, from the least of them unto the greatest of them, saith the Lord Yahweh. For I will forgive their iniquity, and I will remember their sin no more. Thus saith the Lord Yahweh, which giveth the sun for a light by day, and the ordinances of the moon and of the stars for a light by night, which divideth the sea when the waves thereof roar. The Lord Yahweh of hosts is his name. If those ordinances depart from before me, saith the Lord Yahweh, then the seed of Israel shall also cease from being a nation before me forever. Yahweh is writing everything into our inward parts, our heart, which totally pertains to our spirit. It is this process that the Bible calls perfection, and it only pertains to the Elohim, for only they are the children of Yahweh. Everything else is his creation, and does not carry within it that divine, eternal seed spirit that birthed them in heaven before the foundation of the world. These statements cause a vibration within the Elohim that they are true. They may not understand at the present time, but they stir up the divine indwelling spirit. Jesus said, It is the spirit that quickeneth, makes alive. The flesh profiteth nothing. The words that I speak unto you, they are spirit, and they are life. John 6:63. The struggle that goes on within each Elohim in earth is the battle between flesh and spirit. Just the presence of this conflict identifies Elohim, for no other race or any of the creation has such eternal strife. As the children grow, so does the power of the Spirit, and the power of the flesh becomes less and less until it's finally put to death. For if you live after the flesh, you shall die. But if you through the Spirit do mortify the deeds of the body, you shall live. Romans 8:13. Jesus addresses this with Nicodemus in John 3:5-8. Jesus answered, Verily, verily, I say unto thee, except a man be born of water and of the Spirit, he cannot enter into the kingdom of God. That which is born of the flesh is flesh. That which is born of the Spirit is spirit. Marvel not that I said unto thee, Ye must be born again. The wind bloweth where it listeth, and thou hearest the sound thereof, but canst not tell whence it cometh or whither it goeth. So is every one that is born of the Spirit. Moving to the next chapter, what does Jesus tell the woman at the well? But the hour cometh, and now is, when the true worshipers shall worship the Father in spirit and in truth. For the Father seeketh such to worship him. God is a spirit, and they that worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth. John 4:23 through 24. It is that divine spirit in Elohim that receives all truth from the divine spirit of Yahweh Father. The understanding of righteousness flows into us through the direct revelation of Yahweh communicated through the Spirit itself bearing witness with our spirit. What you understand today will be built upon tomorrow. As the light grows, our vision becomes better, and the misty fog begins to lift. Jesus is leading us along on a journey where new vistas are opening and a glorious panorama is being seen, which is the kingdom of God with all its righteousness being performed by the grown-up Elohim adult sons of Yahweh. Because of their perfection, the whole creation shall be delivered from the bondage of corruption into the glorious liberty of the children of God. Romans 8:21. Yahweh's perfecting of his children Elohim has been going on for over 7,400 years. It began with Yahweh forming the Adam of Genesis 2:7 into earth. This Adam was the Son of God. Luke 3:38. All Elohim enter earth through this racial doorway, and they too will be made perfect just as the Son of God was. Luke 13:32 and Hebrews 2:10 and 5:8 through 9. While in earth, they were an Adamic white flesh and blood body, as stated in Hebrews 11:13 and 1 Peter 2:11. They are strangers and pilgrims in the earth. No one is a stranger or pilgrim in their own country, city, or home. Earth is not the Elohim's place of origin or home, but it is where they enter to be educated. It is their schoolhouse of learning. Who would ever think that school was their home? Ask anyone away at school, where is your home? As previously pointed out in the scriptures, we are not of this world and existed before its foundations were ever laid. The question now arises, why must the Elohim come to earth to be educated? Is not it the place in which the kingdom of God is to be established? And is it not to be administered by the Elohim? Where is it that Jesus is to return and reign and rule? And is he alone? Earth is nothing more than on-the-job training for the children of Yahweh. And while in it, they are taught by the Father through the Spirit all things necessary to reign and rule with their big brother Yahweh. Granted, There will be many trips to school learning the hard lessons, but all things experienced here are for their good, for they are sent from the Father. This is understanding righteousness. For all the works of Yahweh are righteous. He gives us all things and is in control of all things. Whatever happens here in the lives of his Elohim children will bring them into glory. That same glory into which Jesus, their brother, entered. This is God's predestinated plan, and he will bring it to pass. We can rejoice in the fact that man's choice will not alter it in any way. But even the illusion of free will teaches us the total supremacy of Yahweh. At the very moment this is understood, recrimination ends, and the Elohim begin to praise the Father for his goodness, loving kindness, and mercy, which endures forever. All this was set into motion before we ever left heaven, and it is being carried out in the earth. This end of the age will be a time of great tribulation for the creation, but not so for the maturing Elohim. They will rejoice, for the kingdoms of men are coming to an end and being replaced by the kingdom of Yahweh God. The old must die, and while it makes its final gasp, there will be a world of those trying to save it. They will moan and howl to the heights of heaven. But the Elohim that understand who is in control and what this time signifies will shout the praises of Yahweh for all things that are occurring. His kingdom is to come, and his will is to be done in earth as it is in heaven. Now, all Elohim, look up, for your redemption draweth nigh. Fear not, little flock, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. The kingdoms of this world have become the kingdom of our Lord and of his anointed, and of the increase of his government there shall be no end. All this is the righteousness of Yahweh toward his creation and his children Elohim. Everything in heaven and earth will proclaim, Lord God Almighty, true and righteous are thy judgments. Ignorance about what is going on now will be replaced with understanding righteousness, and from where it flows. Make a joyful noise unto the Lord Yahweh, all ye lands. Serve the Lord Yahweh with gladness. Come before his presence with singing. Know ye that the Lord Yahweh, he is God. It is he that hath made us, and not we ourselves. We are his people, Elohim, and the sheep of his pasture. Enter into his gates with thanksgiving and into his courts with praise. Be thankful unto him and bless his name Yahweh. For the Lord Yahweh is good. His mercy is everlasting, and his truth endureth to all generations. Psalms 100. All Elohim, while gladly singing the joyful praises of your Father Yahweh, you can confidently declare that he leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. This is his gift to his children, whom he foreknew and predestinated to be righteous, just, and this is the key to understanding righteousness.
This message is produced by truthfromgod.com, which is one of hundreds of messages that can be read, heard, and watched at truthfromgod.com.